Well, thank you all for joining me today during this breakout session. I want to say a quick thank you to the Family Cafe for my first presentation as a presenter here. I've been coming to the Family Cafe for about 4 years now, and this is my first presentation in over a year in person because of COVID-19. So if I'm a little rusty, please forgive me, because it's so different from virtual presentations. And then going back and forth, it's pretty interesting. So today, I am going to talk to you about my newest venture, because I wear many hats in my life and throughout the beginning of my career and growing into different roles and taking on different opportunities. It has led me to many different ventures. And this one I'm very passionate about, which is employment for people with disabilities, especially for the job seeker. As a person with cerebral palsy, and as a person that has survived many challenges like cancer, abuse, and everything that you could think of, I've been through. I've overcome it, but the two main things that keep becoming an obstacle over and over has always been transportation and employment. So I'm going to share with you some of my personal experiences and journeys with employment and the new guide and resource that I created for job seekers. Now, my newest venture is about empowering the possibilities within individuals with disabilities so that they could live, so that we could live our best lives in every form of way, whether it be through education, whether it be social events, activities, whether it be getting access to transportation and having the opportunity to be active members in our society and within our community. It's very important that we participate in our community, because when we do, stereotypes and myths vanish. So if we're not in our communities, people won't see what we're capable of. They'll continue with those stereotypes that they may have about us. Now, this previous year, in 2020, we all faced COVID-19, and job seekers had many challenges, and that's what made me realize that I needed to create something to help job seekers through this time of the unknown. Many job seekers faced hiring freezes, layoffs. They also had to decline jobs due to health and safety. And now that we're post-COVID-19, we're learning how to adapt and change to the new normal. But it also has made us more self-aware of our abilities as job seekers. It has allowed employers to become innovative, to allow people with disabilities try assistive technology, to be able to work from home, which is something that a lot of job seekers with disabilities have been wanting for a while. And remote work is like a reasonable accommodation, but to have the whole world and to have the whole nation do it, it really shows you that what we're capable of doing. I'm going to speak about some of the adversities that I faced that have led me to where I am today as far as the job search goes. throughout my job searches and throughout my experiences, I've always used these 4 concepts, which is self-discovery, employment exploration, empowering myself or the job seeker in this case, and finding employers that actually want to empower individuals with disabilities, giving them a shot, allowing them to not just have a job, but to advance in the job is so important. I don't believe that a person should be working minimum wage forever or for 5 years. If they've been there for like 10 years, they should be moving up in different positions, not staying in one position forever. I think it's just, not allowing the person to show their true potential and ability. And I'm going to go back. In 2017, actually in 2014, I graduated from FIU, Florida International University, with 2 bachelor degrees, one in sociology and one in international relations. And after I graduated, I interned for several state senators and some federal state senators for their campaigns, and I worked in their office, but I always had internships and volunteer work. And when I went to go to apply for jobs, they wouldn't count that as work experience. They wanted somebody that actually had work hours and real tasks, they say. And it bothered me because I had all these, I've been on all these councils, and I've done so many things throughout the state, and I had my resume. They wouldn't read my resume. They would, when I go to meet them and give my resume, they look at the walker, and I see them put the resume to the side. And I would have to go back and say, I need you to give that to your HR, your human resource manager. Or, for example, when I go to an interview, sometimes I would meet with different employers. They would sit with me, they would talk to me, but they would always say these 2 things to me. You're doing so well for someone like you. And I'm like, what do you mean, someone like me? I'm just like you, trying to, get a job so I could live a normal, decent life, and get out of poverty. Because back then I was on SSI. And there's some myths to SSI, and there's some truth. You can work while on SSI, but it's how much you make an hour that affects your benefits. So if you make too much, you could lose. If you make too little, great. Then you stay within the system. And what I found too, as I was being interviewed for several positions, is that it was cheaper for the employer to keep me on Medicaid versus being on their benefit, their company's benefits. So they would tell me, oh, it's okay for you to stay on Medicaid. We'll hire you for 15 hours. So there's some things that I think we need to work on as a society. We need to start educating our employers. And that's part of the reason why I created the guide. It's not just for the job seeker, but it's for the employer, to actually show them what it's like as a job seeker with a disability and the challenges and barriers that we have to face. And I have a visible disability. Imagine what it's like for a person that has an invisible disability. It's just as hard and maybe twice as hard. Always know that through adversity comes bigger and greater things in the long run. It may seem dim and dark at times, but when you go through those experiences, you learn what people actually think about our population, and how that motivated me to be like, you know what, I'm going to prove these people wrong, that people with disabilities do want to work. We want equal pay, and we want to just be like everyone else. We want to have a house or an apartment. We want to have someone to love. We want to be able to get to work on time. And we just want to live our lives. Now, for job seekers, I tell them to self-discover themselves, find out what their interests are, what they like to do, what they're passionate about, what are their talents, what do they want to learn, or what have they learned through their experiences. And that matters. Ability, what comes naturally to them? What do they do best, like art or music or building computers for some people. And a skill is something that they could learn or develop over time. So that's something that I had to figure out, because I always had an interest in helping people at a young age. And I always didn't like how doctors and teachers and evaluators always downplayed my skills and abilities. They thought my disability was mental and not just physical. They thought it was both. But it turns out they were all wrong, because I have 2 degrees and I do walk, just not the way they want me to walk. So, I just want to say that no matter what a person tells you, you should not let that define who you are as a person. You define your disability. You define what you're capable of. Just trying to find it. Find what you love to do and what you're passionate about. Your job, you will love every single day. What is the purpose of work? Why do we work? Do we work for money? Do we work for helping people? Do we work for creating things, worth in our daily lives? That is something that people with disabilities, we strive to help others so that the next generation doesn't have to go through the same obstacles as we are going through today. And that's my purpose. It's finding your purpose, your principles, your values. It's about finding a mentor or your support system. It could be friends that you trust. It could be family. It could be your significant other. It could be whoever you trust that's behind you, that believes in you. And it's also about deciding what type of work do you want to do. Do you want to do part-time? Do you want to do full-time? Do you want to do seasonal, temporary, or self-employment? You are capable of all those things. It's just deciding what is right for you and your abilities and your situation, because every person's situation is different. And I want to make that clear too. Not everything I say is always correct. It's correct for my case, for my situation, and for my journey. Questions at this point? Is there any questions that you may have?
Can you tell them what you do now?
Okay.
I know already, but it's in your journey.
It is very much in my journey, and thank you, David. I started in 2017. I applied for Ann Stork Center in Fort Lauderdale, and what I do there is I'm an advocacy coordinator for the transportation program that we have. It's called a Right-of-Way. And then our secondary program is called Mobility Connection. And I help coordinate the transportation. I actually teach individuals with disabilities how to use different modes of transportation throughout Palm Beach and Broward County, and sometimes throughout the whole state, depending on what they need, or finding them resources that help them access transportation, or as well as advocate on transportation issues. And then my second job is my full-time job. It's with the Florida Division of Vocational Rehab. I'm a VR technician for Area 4, 15D to be exact. And that has opened the doors to full benefits and helping people find employment with disabilities. And they really strive on helping their employees be the best that they can be. They actually want their employees to advance and not just stay in one role throughout the agency. And that's what I found interesting about VR. And that's what made me think about job seekers and what they go through, and how I meet job seekers frequently now. And I hear it from parents that, you know, my child just got a job at Starbucks or Publix, but the parent would like them to see them move up instead of just being a bag person or a stalker, stocking the shelves, stuff like that. So it makes you, my job makes me appreciate what I have, but also I try to find ways to give back. And this is my way of doing it, creating resources. So I created the Employ to Empower guide that actually helps the job seeker to developing a network, to finding where to find jobs, to writing resumes, to how to talk to employers about their disability. I also, in the guide, talk about SSI, SSDI, the differences of that and how it impacts when you are employed. It goes through every stage. And I also talk about how to decline a job, and how to accept an offer, because that's important too. Who knows? The person with the disability may not want that job. So how do you politely tell them no in a nice way? So that's what I do right now. And transportation and employment go together, and employment, you can't have employment without transportation, and many people forget that. So I try to bring awareness to that too. So.
What is the cost of this guide?
On Amazon, it's $20, but it's like 62 pages long, and it took a long time to create. But on my website, it's like $15. So, and if you don't, have the funds for it, just give me a call and I'll send it to you.
That's applicable in Florida.
It's available everywhere.
Yeah, so it's not just Florida specific.
Exactly. It's very general, so it could be used anywhere. Yes.
Well, congratulations on your book. That's an awesome accomplishment. My question is, from your experience working, are there particular companies that you would recommend that tend to do better?
I recommend local government and state government, because they have to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act. They have to follow the equal employer opportunity laws and policies. These private entities and businesses don't always have to if they don't have more than 15 employees. So,
Federal also.
federal also.
My daughter got her job through the federal Schedule A disability hiring, and there was a program through her college, the Disability Services Office, to, I forget what they call it, but I know she's in this Callus Acquire program, but it's workforce recruitment something. But it's a very good for federal agencies and contractors.
Oh,
She's a civilian in the Air Force.
awesome.
But
Tell her thank you for her
well,
service.
you know, she was, I mean, with years and but she was a math major, and you know, employers can't really ask, you know, hey, we want to ask these, you know, for example, because there's certain talents that go with that. But by going through this disability program, if I could just say, the guy who hired her, he's the liaison for that Air Force base, and he loves this program because he said that the disability hiring, he has a say in who he hires, whereas with the regular stuff, he said, like, if a veteran wanted this job, I'd have to give it to them even if I couldn't stand it. Then, now she had a longer probation period, you know, and you know, it was a step up. She needed less education and work experience, but it's a 3-year thing, and it was a 2-year probation, this and that. But you know, so she got fully up to it. But the the employer wanted to do this disability hiring program.
That's
And
awesome.
they wanted someone like an ASPE because it was, you know, I mean, you know, the things that they excel in, you know, kind of a thing. She couldn't say, hey, I have it, and they couldn't say, hey, we want it. But when he looked through the disability program and saw a math major, he said, okay.
What I find interesting is that what I suggest for a job seeker is to always look on the company's website to see what their policies are on disability and hiring, and if they are really inclusive, actually go to the company and see if you see individuals with disabilities that are working there. Not just putting a photo on the company website and saying, oh, we hire, you know, see if they really practice what they preach. That's my suggestion. That's what I find in my own experience. So.
So I guess I have a really, can you hear me? Sorry, I have a specific question. So I have a daughter, she has Down syndrome, she's going to be 23 shortly. She's worked at Publix bagging for 5 years now. But she goes every review, including the day before we came here. They give her a 25-cent raise twice a year. But she keeps asking. She's so sick of bagging. Like, you know, 'cause it's so repetitive. I mean, so she is really good and smart enough. Like, we came on Thursday and helped bag everything for this conference. She spent the entire day, you know, picking up from the lineup and bagging things. So she's intelligent enough.
I don't doubt that for a second.
But I can't seem to, like, I can't support her in asking for trying to get to move somewhere else and do something else in that company. What do you suggest for getting their attention? Because they just look at her, she's just like the pet. She's the store pet. This is the truth.
Talk to me after, because I may know a few resources that you could use.
Folk rehab can be helpful too.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
frustrating for her, so I'm trying to find, that's why I came
Yeah.
to listen today to hear what you have, because she wants to do more, but I feel like there's this like ceiling over her where she's going to be.
Yeah, you don't want her to be the token of the store and used. Once you feel that way, that's when that's a signal that you either leave it or deal with it or find another avenue to get through that hurdle. I've been there, done that too. So it's difficult because you don't want to lose your job that you're so used to, but at the same time, you deserve more. You deserve to grow and not just become stagnant. So what I have here is many job seekers don't know their rights. They don't know about the Americans with Disabilities Act. Some of them know what it does, but they don't understand how it impacts their ability to be recruited, hired, fired, and training. So I talk about that in the guide, how it protects you if you are a victim of discrimination. You cannot be discriminated against if you're able and qualified to do the job. If you could do the job and the task that it asks you to do, you cannot be discriminated against. The second half of this portion is about how an employer cannot ask for your medical records of any kind before or even after a job is accepted. It is wrong of them to do so. You do have the right to self-disclose, but it's supposed to be on your terms to self-disclose. They can't force you to self-disclose, and they can't sway you to self-disclose. As long as you're doing the job and you're doing it well, they cannot bother you about your disability. That's in the simplest term I could put it. And then during COVID-19 and during this inclusive era, I call it inclusive culture, we are seeing more employers become more, they're embracing people with disabilities. They're finding innovative ways to getting their companies to accept people with disabilities through training. We also see creative solutions in finding ways on how they could accommodate the person or individual that they hire. We are also seeing a bigger increase in the disability inclusive mindset. Is there any more questions before I end?
That last thing, does that include with psychological and mental health type disability?
Yes, it covers everything. My guide is very general. It covers almost everything it could be used in.
You find employers more willing to?
I find it they're more willing to help. I don't want to single out anything, but I find it's harder when your disability is visible because you can't hide it. They're always thinking in the back of their mind, is she capable? Or they even talk to me slow. That's a good one that I hate. I hate it when people talk to me like I'm slow. So I show them how quick I'm thinking because I memorize everything that they say to me. And I practically recite it back to prove to them that I am quicker than you think. And I also talk to them slow right back to see how it makes them feel. Because it's not only that too, it's the fact that I don't look my age. I'm turning 34 in a week, but I look like I'm 17 to 20 years old. So they treat me like I'm a kid. And I have to tell them, no, I'm not a kid. I've done that too. I had to tell them my age and everything. It's interesting.
So they talk to your companion instead
Oh yes, they talk to Doug instead of me.
Or they whisper, or they'll speak lower around you like you don't hear them.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you
David knows.
know that you're reinforcing their vision that you have multiple.
Yeah, I because of the CP, I do have some processing issues, but it's not with words, it's with numbers. So I will never take a job. I know my weaknesses, and that's another thing too I talk about in the guide. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and what you can improve on. And I know that I have math dyslexia. I'm not going to take a job that is strictly math based. I will never do that. That's why I have my significant other. He's the math whiz, and I'm the writing and communication whiz. So, yeah, and my significant other, do you mind if I tell them what you have, Doug, or no? He has autism, and he's going through a period where he's transitioning into finding jobs. And employers are like, I find it so odd in a way because I help him apply for jobs, and he gets interviews left and right away. And when I applied for jobs, it took me 600 applications to finally get this job that I have now. And I've only got like 6 interviews, and out of the 6 interviews, only 1 was interested. And for him, it's so much easier, and I wonder why that is. It's because his disability is invisible. That's just the way it is.
Now, my daughter is 16 years old. Disability is invisible, and that creates a whole nother issue.
He's facing that.
I am very concerned for her safety. I am concerned that she might be exploited. I'm concerned that she might be taken advantage of. Any advice? We have a mom in the back that has somebody working. As we take on the world and help them to be and do the best that they can, but also the fear that people are going to take advantage of.
I've experienced that too, in little ways, subtle ways. But my best advice to you is make sure she knows her rights as an employee at that company. Self-advocacy is a big thing, how to assert herself in a way that's appropriate. I know for myself, it's hard for me to trust people. I don't trust anyone but God because of what I've been through. But I find along the journey that there's going to be people that are going to mislead you. There's people that are going to actually have your best interests at heart. And it's best for your daughter if she could find a mentor, someone that's in her field, someone that she could ask questions, someone that would advocate for her on her behalf. I was lucky to have that. If I did not have that mentor, I wouldn't be standing where I am. I wouldn't be where I am today, having a house, having a full-time job, having 2 degrees. He pushed me beyond my limits. He's still pushing me because in August, I'm gonna go for my master's. I've decided to take that leap of faith and do it. So it helps when you have people behind you. So I would like to know more about how you think she's being exploited, because maybe we could find a resource for her, someone to talk to, or someone that she could report that to, because that's important. Safety is important in every way. Thank you for having me, and if there's any more questions, you could come and see me, or you have my card, talk to me. I'd be more than happy to help in any way. Thank you.